Howdy and welcome back to Celebrating Vintage Model Kits. Going to be looking at another Lindberg German World War II bomber. This is the 1967 Lindberg issue of the Dornier Do-17Z. It's kit number 577-100, so this was a suggested retail of $1 at the time of release. And we've got box art done by a gentleman by the name of Boyanowski. So the Dornier, the Z series, was in response to the operations that had been taking place during the Spanish Civil War. It was seen that the Do-17, while initially it was thought, oh, it's so fast, it doesn't need to defend itself, it's faster than fighters. Well, that didn't work out so well. The fighter speeds quickly increased as the 30s went on, and the original Do-17 was extremely vulnerable. Had one MG-15 7.92 millimeter machine gun in the top rear deck, and there was one sticking out a hole on the bottom. Some of them, they field modified some guns sticking out the side of the cockpit or out the nose. So you're talking about three, 7.92 machine guns, not much to defend it. So they decided, okay, well, we need to improve this considerably in order for it to still be a viable aircraft. So they redesigned the whole nose section to be able to give the guns a much better field of fire, hopefully being able to defend the aircraft better. So you had a bulge down on the bottom to allow for a rear defensive gun down at the bottom here. They increased the size of the cockpit up on top, so giving the rear gunner a little bit better field of fire as well. Then they added guns in the nose, both on the side of the cockpit and at the bottom of the bombardier's area. So the original idea was that this was supposed to have been powered by Daimler-Benz 600 engines to boost the speed on it, to make it more viable. But unfortunately, the Air Ministry, the RLM, said that 601 engines were going to be exclusively used by fighters. So they had to go back and figure out, well, what are we going to use? And so they got stuck with the Bramo Fafnir 323A radials, which with the increased weight and drag of the whole new nose, actually reduced the top speed of the aircraft significantly. And also decreased the bomb load ability as well. And there was also a fourth crew added. So the Z1 didn't do all that well, so they quickly replaced it with the Z2. They went to P-Series engines the 323 P-Series, which increased horsepower up to 1,000 horsepower, which kind of brought it back up to what it originally had been. There's a change in the supercharger that was used that was better geared for a little bit lower altitude performance, which is more where the Dorniers were flying. The bomb load was able to be increased back to the original 1,000 kilograms or 2,200 pounds. Then they added additional machine guns to the sides of the cockpit. So you had one out the back, two out each side, one up here, one here, one here. At some point, they also swapped out this gun here for an MGFF cannon, and then that was again swapped out for an MG 151/15 15 millimeter auto cannon, which had much better performance on it. So they continued to field modify it. Some of these had up to 8 guns, scattered around the cockpit area. So they were really trying to keep it relevant, but its days were numbered. It did not do very well in the Battle of Britain, and the Luftwaffe pretty much phased this aircraft out for frontline service. But it was continued to be used because they were desperate for aircraft. But it was no longer the great flying pencil, as they called it, from the earlier years. So let's take a look at the kit itself. We've got, as mentioned, this pretty neat artwork here by Boyanowski. A pair of 17s going on a bombing run here. We've got a blue box over here with information about the kit itself, 1/72nd scale. So Lindberg by this time has given up on pushing the 1/64 scale that we saw on the previous Lindberg bombers, and has kind of settled into what's now become the standard by this time of 1/72nd for your smaller scale. On the side here, we've got a nice profile of the subject aircraft. Some more information on the side here. This side here is fairly similar as well. Yeah, we do have the copyright on here of 1967 and the address for Lindberg. The box end has your kit number, the 577-100, and a repeat of the top box art. And on this end is similar as well. And so this is probably one of the last of the slick lithographs that are wrapped around and glued down on a hard box. Lindberg had been using some direct print on cardboard earlier with some of their fold-open boxes, end-open boxes in the Cellavision. So this is kind of a last gasp of the really nice, slick lithographs. This is the style of box that I really enjoy. And we have our instruction sheet here. So we got a couple of kind of artistic retouched photographs of the completed kit. Little history on the Dornier 17Z. And your first steps, and I find this kind of really strange looking. They've got all the crew just sitting, boom, 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 like they're in an airliner. Very odd. And that's it for your cockpit. Just a row of seats. Hope they're Barca loungers. Adding additional bits onto the fuselage, assembly of the wing and the engine nacelles. And then we go horizontal on this side, getting your engines put on. Until you put your stand together, oh wait, so let's go down to 5. So here's your landing gear bits. And if you're going to do it with the gear door closed. And then they're giving you a 2 view showing you your decal placement and your paint scheme. So just telling you dark green or brown. So not much as far as telling you how to paint this guy. I don't think there's any suggestions. I don't see any suggested colors or callouts. So fairly simple. So there is your instructions. And here are our decals, which are in not too bad a shape. A little bit of yellowing. And on the back, we've got instructions for assembling and then the kit number again. So this particular set of decals markings, similar as the box art, is a specific aircraft. This is A1EZ that belonged to the 15 Stoffel of KG-53. The 15 Stoffel was a Croatian squadron that was assigned to KG-53. The Croats had actually received some Do-17s that were being retired from the Luftwaffe, and then they ended up joining them in their invasion of Russia. So this squadron was attached to KG-53, which was former Condor Legion squadron, or group, I should say, that fought on the Russian front. So that's what this is here. This is the shield symbol for that Stoffel. So it's 15 Stoffel of Kampfgeschwader 53. And they were on the Eastern Front starting around summer of 1942, July-ish, and they were disbanded in June of 44. So they were flying these Do-17s well into 44 when it was very obsolete. So kudos to those guys for keeping this thing going that long. So let's look at our plastic. We've got our fuselage halves here. We've got fairly simplified raised panel lining on down the side and rows of rivets along almost every single panel line. So I think this is pretty stylized in its representation. Especially for a 1967 kit. By this point, most companies had kind of gone away from this look, but Lindberg was definitely still keeping it alive. Fit's not too bad. The hole for the stand's a little off on the two sides there, but the fit does look like it would go together pretty well with not much of a seam line. But as you can see here, there's absolutely nothing on the inside for cockpit detailing. A couple of slots for the floor. And it does do a pretty good job of the triangular kind of shape of the fuselage. So there's that. And then we've got our wings. So these are the bottom halves. Again, similar, just kind of generic panel lining being done. With rivets around everything, some raised lines representing some access points and maybe fuel filler caps. Our ailerons are very represented with incised lines, but not much representing fabric covering on it. And I think this is probably like an oil cooler down here, and that has no hole on it for the intake. And here's the other side, same thing. Top of our wings, similar again. And here's the other side top. That same kind of greenish color plastic too that we've seen on the other ones. So here's our engines. Very weak representation for those radials. And this is your cockpit piece. Just line up the Barca loungers. And we've got wheels, very generic wheels. Our engine nacelles, same thing, not much to those. Really no interior detail. Another one here. And here's our tail fins. Yeah, looks like landing gear parts. Similar again, very generic looking panel lining. And this tree has our horizontal. There's some sinkholing going across the top here. And at least there's no ejector pin marks on this part. gear parts, covers, a couple of additional bits, and there are our Barca loungers and our extremely undersized crew. So you can get a better view of those. But they, at least a couple of them, you know, there's two different poses on them, so at least it's not all just four guys identical. There's that. Here's our propellers. A little bit of flash on these, it looks like. It's a pretty flash-free kit, though. It's supposed to be a very early production one. But props are, seem to be undersized, though. And as far as clear parts go, here is our canopy cover. This is actually pretty nice. Very clear. A little thick. Framing is all internal. That's going to be fun painting that one. Never really understood why the companies were doing that, but makes for extremely difficult painting of your canopy framing. Here's our nose, and this is thick, and the framing is lost. In fact, there is no framing on the inside of this. This one, it's not even really framing on the outside, just the edges where it kind of bends around. So, not the best choice there. And then here is the underside gunner's position. Now, what you may have noticed is that this kit comes with 0 guns. And there's no holes, there's no nothing. There are no guns for this kit. Very strange omission. And then here's the stand. Got Lindberg stamped on the side there. And so it looks like this part here gets pinned on there, and then this fatter plug is what goes into the bottom of the fuselage. And this one goes on the front, and I think there was a little plate there. Yeah, there's a little plate there for the name of the aircraft that would go on this, and then stick that on the stand. So there you go. That is your Dornier 17Z from Lindberg. Not the best kit in the world. You know, when you compare this to stuff they were making in the 50s, how advanced that seemed, especially for its time. Seems like kind of almost like a regression for them in the late 60s here. So this kit, for some reason, for Lindberg, it's only issued a couple of times. There's this original 67 boxing, and then there's a 75 white box, which basically just used the same artwork, but with all the background cut out, the kind of mid-70s Lindberg white box. And then that was it until 2014. They popped out a nostalgia box looking kind of similar to this with an additional little panel piece showing that there's a new set of decals included with it, along with this Croatian one. And that's all they did for it. So I guess maybe Monogram came out with their Do-17Z right around this time, which I think is probably a much better kit than this one. So that may be why this thing did not sell very well, and that's why it wasn't reissued too often. But going by Lindbergh's history of just repopping stuff that extremely outdated, I'm surprised this did not get boxed more frequently. But that's what makes this fun. So as always, if you have built this kit, tell us about it in the comment section. If you got one sitting on your shelf, take a picture of it, send it in, so that way we can include it on the next viewer build video and share it with others. Well, that's all for today. Thanks for watching, and have yourself a great rest of your day.